Well, hello, YouTube. Today we're going to talk about why it's impossible, pretty much, to hide your feelings. I think we all go through this belief, or we all have this belief that we can feel a certain way about somebody and we can hide it. And everybody thinks this, but it's so not true. There's actually a term for it. It's called microexpressions. These are expressions that happen on your face all the time. As a matter of fact, your face is capable of making 10,000 expressions. Most of them you can't control, and so your subconscious picks up on these micro expressions, whether you perceive them consciously or not. Hi, my name is Ray Abram. And if you're new to me, I'm a connection coach. I help entrepreneurs and executives become better known, liked, and trusted by their ideal customers or corporations where they want to work. So today I want to talk a little bit about micro expressions. And I know that sounds maybe a little heady, a little scientific, but believe me, it happens to everybody. Matter of fact, you're doing it right now, whether you know it or not. So it's better to know a little something about it than to not know, because when you know about it, then you can use it to your advantage as opposed to just letting these things happen and falling victim to someone else who understands how micro expressions work. So this term kind of was invented by a guy named Paul Elkman, I think back in the 70s. It's been around a long time. As a matter of fact, there was an old TV show that was created around his work called Lie to Me. You may have heard of it. But in this show, the police bring in a scientist who can look people in the eye and tell whether they're lying or not. And it's actually a skill set that you can learn. So we'll talk a little bit more about this because it really comes in handy during your networking, right? When you're building relationships with someone, is it possible to tell if someone likes what you're saying or if someone is attracted to you and your message? Or if they feel contempt or disgust, or anger when you're talking. So all of these things come across in someone's face, but it happens so quickly that you can barely perceive it, if you perceive it at all. They don't hold these expressions. As a matter of fact, sometimes when someone holds an expression, it means that they're faking it. So the micro expressions are important to look at, understand what they do. So I'm going to kind of go through some of these things that you can tell just on the face, and have some video clips to also highlight some of the things so you can see it in slow motion. But we'll just go through it. So the one of the ones that the first one is people talk about is anger. So it doesn't mean that someone is necessarily angry with you or they have a strong emotion about it, but there's something about what you're saying that makes the person slightly angry, and you can tell that because their eyebrows will furrow just for a brief split second. There's also something called surprise. So when you say something that really surprises someone, their eyebrows will go up and their eyes will open a little wider. So that means that they're surprised. Again, these all happen in milliseconds. Then there's also contempt, which is when someone just, feels that they're better than you, or they don't really necessarily like you. One side of the face, one side of the mouth will turn up, like, we've all seen that. But usually, again, when people hold it for a long time. The interesting thing about micro expressions is that you can't help them. You can't stop them. These things happen just like your heart beats, just like your lungs breathe and the blood goes through and your digestion system works. These things are just automatically wired between your brain and your face. Is called congruency. And so if you're incongruent, which means that you feel something inside, but your face or your words are saying something else, the micro expressions actually will make it apparent that you're not telling the truth, or you're not being honest, or your words are not connected with how you really feel. And again, because these things happen so quickly, you don't perceive them, right? So it's not something that you'll look at somebody and say, oh, they look angry at what I'm saying, or this person is disgusted with me, or they're surprised at what I'm saying. But in the back of your mind, in your subconscious, your brain is picking up those signals. And that's why sometimes you feel a certain way about somebody and you can't put your finger on it. You can't understand, why do I feel that way about somebody? I mean, they said everything, they said all the right things, but I get a bad feeling. And quite often that is because of incongruency. So that kind of gives you kind of this feeling. And if you listen to it, it's that red flag that can let you know how you should move forward in that relationship. There's also happiness, or what they call elation. Again, just it's a smile. But it's very fast. And somebody very quickly can smile. And I talked about this, I teased a little bit about this earlier in the video. You can actually tell if someone likes what you're saying by their pupils. Someone's pupils will actually get bigger when they're either attracted to you or they like what you're saying. So if you have trouble holding eye contact, as I've spoken about before, you should hold eye contact about 60% of the conversation. And if you're having trouble doing that, just use that trick. Look to see if someone's pupils are dilating, and if your pupils are getting bigger, then you know they like what you're saying. If they're getting smaller, you know that they don't, and you can adjust what you're saying toward your message based on that. So micro expressions are really important, again, because we think that we are hiding, that we're faking, and other people are doing that to us. But the reality is, because of micro expressions and other forms of body language we'll talk about later, people know. I use the term, I think I did a video a while ago about Stop Faking the Funk. It's an old 80s rap song. Because when you try to fake, you actually turn people off. And people know, because it's written all over your face. Another 80s reference. I don't know why I'm dipping back there, but yeah. So anyway, so micro expressions are important to know about, and definitely can help you, if you understand them, can help you decide on whether someone is telling you the truth, on whether you think they will actually be someone who's good to have in your network, good to have relationships with, because we've all been disappointed by people who we thought were one way, but they ended up being another way, and they had deceived us. But if you understand how the micro expressions work, and it's just training and understanding, then you can become better at knowing what somebody really means, and if there's a disconnect between what they're saying and what they really mean. So keep that in mind, folks. Definitely would love, subscribe to the channel. We are going to be dropping some gems on everything about networking. Some of it is not anything you've ever thought about when you think about networking like this, but it's all interrelated, because if you have good relationships, right, then the networking will take care of itself, right? So that's what we talk about here. Thanks for joining, and catch the next video that'll pop up here on the screen.